Hello everyone and welcome back to Watch World, and today we are going to be looking at this Alpha Speedmaster chronograph Homage and whether it is the best affordable alternative to the famed Omega Speedmaster. So guys, I hope you are all doing well. Today we are going to look at this watch from Alpha, which as most people will know is a clear homage to the Omega Speedmaster. There are many homages of the Omega Speedmaster out there, from brands such as Alpha, Pagani Design, Courgeot, Felida and Polaris, just to name a few. But I think Alpha give you the best value for money, and I'm going to go through my reasons why. But first, let's start with the measurements. This watch has a 42mm case diameter, a lug-to-lug of 48mm, a case thickness of 16mm, and an inner lug width of 20mm. So bar that thickness of 16mm, the dimensions are fairly true to the Omega Speedmaster. The 16mm thickness might sound like a lot, but in all honesty, it doesn't wear like a 16mm watch on the wrist. A lot of that thickness is on the case back, which protrudes out, but that is not visible when it is on the wrist. Also, the crystal is raised from the case by about 1mm, so again, it's not really noticed when wearing it, so it only feels like a 13-14mm watch rather than a 16mm watch. The movement inside this is a Seagull ST1903 manual wind chronograph movement with 20 joules and a 42-hour power reserve. The 42 hours is without use of the chronograph. It would be less than 42 hours the more you use the chronograph function. The movement has a diameter of 31.3mm and a thickness of 6.25mm. It features a running seconds hand at the 9 o'clock subdial, a 24-hour time at the 6 o'clock subdial, and the 30-minute chronograph timer at the 3 o'clock subdial. It is also possible to pick up this watch with a sterile dial, without the Alpha branding, and also with a white dial and red chronograph hand with black bezel. In front of the black dial we have a mineral crystal along with a 316L stainless steel case and bracelet, and also on the back of the case we have a display case back where we can see that Seagull ST1903 movement. The crown is screw down, and once unscrewed it is possible to wind the watch up. Once pulled out to the next position it is possible to adjust the time on the minute and hours hand. There is no hacking with this watch, which is a disappointment, and it only comes with 50 meters of water resistance. So in terms of pricing, this watch comes in at €210, which roughly converts at the moment to $205 US, £181 sterling, and 327 Aussie dollars. And for that price, I think you are getting a great watch. What are the pros here? You're getting a mechanical movement for €210. Seagull movements get a lot of criticism, but this watch hasn't left my wrist in about 2 weeks, and it is still keeping excellent time. If we move over to the clasp, it feels strong and is easy to operate. There is minimal pressure needed to release the clasp, which is great, as opposed to some of the other homage brands where it would take a lot of force and a lot of effort just to open up the clasp. Another feature that I personally prefer about this watch is that the bracelet links are solid, and they also fall straight down from the lugs, which is another preference of mine. I'm not a fan of when the links protrude out from the edge of the lugs, so this, for me, it's a personal preference, it's aesthetically pleasing, so well done to Alpha here. And also for these type of brands, Alpha is a nice name to have on the dial, certainly much better than Felida or Polaris anyway. But there are cons with this watch too. 100 meters of water resistance would have been nice compared to the 50 meters that this watch has. The lack of hacking is also disappointing, especially given that this is a tool watch. It would have been nice to have that feature. And also, if you have OCD or need to time things down to the split second, it is annoying that the chronograph hand on this piece in particular sets just slightly to the left of the 12 o'clock hour marker. I don't know if it's like that on all the Alpha Speedmasters or if it's just my bad luck that I got one like that. For me, it doesn't matter too much because even though I do use this watch to time things, I never need it accurate down to the split second. So in that regard, it does not bother me a whole pile. but it can be noticeable from an aesthetic point of view, and I know it would drive some people crazy if they had a watch like that. Another con for me is the 24-hour subdial at the 6 o'clock position. There's just no need for this on a chronograph watch. It makes no sense at all to me. It would be so much better to see an hour recorder to go along with the 30 minutes recorder at the 3 o'clock subdial. But look, all these cons are minor issues, and it wouldn't really deter me from buying this watch. I've handled the Courgeot, Pagani Design and Felida Speedmaster homages, and just in terms of build quality, they don't seem to feel as strong as this Alpha Speedmaster. Now, I know those three that I mentioned are cheaper, so you wouldn't expect that, but for me, I would rather pay the extra money for this Alpha and get something that's an improvement on the other models. I actually still have the Courgeot one with me here, and I know you won't be able to see it on the camera, but just the feel of it, it feels more brittle and more fragile than the Alpha does. The Pagani and Courgeot use Seiko Mecha Quartz movements, which are probably more accurate than the Seagull movement. Well, not probably, they will be more accurate because they're quartz movements, but it's also nice to be able to get a mechanical chronograph in this price range as well. And here is what the watch looks like on the wrist. Now, I don't know how well the camera is going to pick this up, but like I said, if you turn it sideways here, it definitely doesn't look like a 16mm thick watch. Again, this is partly due to the display case back kind of juts out, but that's kind of hidden under your by your skin. And again, you have that kind of 1mm of raised crystal, but again, the crystal, it's not really noticeable. When you're talking about thickness, you're looking at the case of the watch rather than the crystal. Again, as I said, if you turn it to the side, you can't see the display case back protruding out, you just see the edge of the case, so it doesn't feel like a 16mm watch. As I said, it feels more like a 13-14mm watch. Again, as I said, bracelet is comfortable, clasp operates very easily with minimal effort, and it hasn't failed at all so far, so yeah. Pictured here on my 7-inch wrist, again, 42mm is about perfect. The 48mm lug-to-lug is probably about spot on. You wouldn't want it any longer than that, especially not if you have smaller wrists. But again, the dimensions are sound, and yeah, this will suit most people's wrists. And here we have the lume. So we have lume on this watch on the hour and minute hands, also the second hand, and the markers on the outside. No lume on the chronograph subdial markers, just the hour, minute, seconds, and the outside markers. Again, it kind of falls into the category, you know, that most of these homage companies fall into. It's not great. It's below average, maybe average. Depending on what's used to charge it up, it will glow brightly enough for a little while, but it won't last any real length of time. So yeah, kind of more or less the same as every other company, every other kind of these watches that I've reviewed on this channel. It doesn't state on the Alpha website what kind of lume it is. Not surprising given that it's not great, but again, it's what you'd expect from these homage watch companies. There are many reasons for why I think this watch from Alpha Watches Europe is the best affordable alternative to the Omega Speedmaster. For €210, as I said, you're getting a mechanical chronograph. Personally, the one I have here, it's kept excellent time. It's been on my watch for 2 weeks straight and keeping very good time. You know, to get a mechanical chronograph in this price range is very, very good, which is why I would favour this watch and recommend it more than the Mecha Quartz Speedmaster homages that you get from Pagani Design, Courgeot, Felida, etc. You also then have the option of the sterile dial if you want. And again, like I said, it's a solid watch, sturdy construction, clasp, bracelet, all feel great. And for these reasons, this is why I would pick this watch as the best affordable alternative to the Omega Speedmaster. So there you go, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please do hit the subscribe button. It really would help the channel out a lot. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care for now, guys.